Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar regarding learning the basics of doing ACI eManifests in BorderConnect. My name is Justin Knowlton, moderator for today's webinar, and today's webinar will be hosted by Daniel Dent. Daniel is BorderConnect's Chief Software Developer and CEO, and started BorderConnect in 2004 with a mission to help the logistics industry cross the border faster and easier. He will be walking you through how to process ACI eManifests using BorderConnect, and he will show you different scenarios you may come across while using ACI eManifest, as well as features, tips, and tricks to doing ACIs quickly and accurately. And for anyone who has questions, you can simply use the chat box feature and type in your question during the course of the webinar, and we will answer your questions at the conclusion. So I will now pass it to Daniel Dent, and please bear with us.
Hopefully everybody can see my screen. You should see BorderConnect's homepage, www.borderconnect.com. I'm going to log in. If you're not an active BorderConnect user, you can sign up for BorderConnect using the Sign Up Now link on our homepage. We have multiple service options available, including the software, which I'm going to be doing a demo of today, and our fax service, which allows you to fax your eManifest to us directly for our experts to process. And we also have an API, which is used by dispatch softwares and other third parties to upload their shipment information directly to BorderConnect for us to send to CBSA on your behalf. So I'm going to start by logging in and switching to the demo company. So when you log in, you're going to see BorderConnect's welcome page. The welcome page essentially just gives you updates about what's new within BorderConnect. And we show a history of manifests that you've done in the system, so you can easily compare it for invoicing purposes, or if you're just curious about your month-over-month activity within BorderConnect. We also have many video tutorials and useful links in this material. I'm going to start by showing you the main menu. We have an ACI eManifest menu. This is the one we're going to be dealing with primarily today. The other one we're going to be dealing with primarily today is Manage Data. We use Manage Data to actually maintain the profiles of our drivers, trucks, trailers, and other ACE and ACI related information. And the other thing I'm going to touch on today is under Account are My Preferences and Company Preferences. Essentially, My Preferences allows us to set a lot of useful features such as notifications, contact preferences, auto-suggest features between ACE and ACI. We're going to use the preferences throughout the demo. When we see something that has happened because a preference is set, I'm just going to note it. So I'm going to start by hovering over ACI eManifests, and in the submenu you see Search ACI eManifests and Start New ACI eManifests. When we click the Search ACI eManifests link, it shows you the last 7 days, so you can see the date between, starting about 7 days ago and going to tomorrow's date, just to make sure it includes late in the evening manifests or people in different time zones. I can also clear these dates and view a complete history of all the manifests this particular company has ever done in the system. So you can see in this case, our demo business has 303 ACIs that are added in. When you glance at the menu, you'll see these status bars. I want to point out before we start a manifest how the status bars work. Whenever you start a manifest, it begins in a draft state. So you can see when I highlight over this, it's showing draft. And as you proceed through the manifest, your goal is to get to this 6 green bar released state. So essentially, BorderConnect's showing you the progress of your manifest throughout the day. So the later you go in history, what you'll typically find is you want all your manifests in this release state, the 6 green bars if you're using RNS, or 5 green if you're not using RNS. So I'm going to start now my first ACI manifest. We're going to start with a very simple manifest. We're going to do just an empty trip with an IIT status set. So IIT is Instruments of International Traffic. Essentially, it's empty racks or containers that might be used. So if you have an Ottawa filer number or your importers have provided you paperwork related to the racks or pallets or whatever you have on the truck. So we're going to start with the trip number. The trip number in CBSA is called the conveyance reference number. It's got to be unique, it's got to stay unique, and it can't match any existing cargo control number. When documents are submitted to customs, which an ACI eManifest is considered like a document in their system, this number has to be unique and can't reference anything else. So in this case, I'm just going to enter in my number. I'm going to move to the first port of arrival. Anytime you see a magnifying glass in BorderConnect, that's BorderConnect's way of telling you it's going to be doing searches in the background trying to find the information you're looking for. So right now, this is an example of a company preference. It's set to use the last Canadian port that I used on the manifest when I start a trip. So the last manifest that I had done was for Sarnia, so it's defaulting to Sarnia. So if I wanted this to cross in Windsor, I can either type WIND, and you'll see the Windsor Ambassador Bridge and Windsor Tunnel popping up. I can use the port code, so I can use the 453 for Ambassador Bridge, or I can even use the opposite US port, so I can type in Detroit, or I can type in the 3801. So I'm going to start with, so I'm going to enter in Windsor, tab to the next screen. Sublocation or warehouse, I'll get into this a little later in the presentation, but essentially this identifies the Canadian sufferance warehouse. So if your goods are going in bond, or if there's a default location, if you have a failed PARS, they would go in bond. Next is the ETA. So by default, BorderConnect will estimate the arrival approximately 2 hours from when you're starting the manifest. And we also provide some quick links. So you can see on the right for tomorrow, today, Thursday, Friday. So if I wanted this manifest to cross on Friday, you can see I can click the quick link and it'll automatically set it to the 19th. And we also have some nice shortcuts for setting your ETA. So for example, if I wanted this to be 9 p.m., I can type 9p, and it's automatically finding 9 p.m. in the listing. Next, we're going to use the quick assign. So we have a quick assign truck, a quick assign driver, and a quick assign trailer. These are optional, but I highly encourage you to use these quick assigns. It makes doing manifests lightning fast and easy. So I can hit the space bar and view a complete listing. I can enter in the unit number, or I can enter in the license plate. Same thing with the trailer. So I haven't selected anything yet. I'm just showing you how it works. If I hit the space bar, I can see a listing of all my unit numbers of trailers, all my trailer numbers, and all my trailer license plates. So you can see 26 in the system for this carrier. And same thing with driver. I can see a full listing of all my drivers. And I can enter in anything to find that information. So I'm just going to quickly select a truck. You can see when I selected the truck, it automatically put on a driver. And again, that goes back to our company preferences. Essentially, we're saying this carrier has drivers that are assigned to their own truck. So when I select the truck, it automatically puts in the driver. If your company shares trucks, you wouldn't want to have that preference enabled. So I'm going to select a trailer as well. So essentially what I've done is created an empty manifest. These are the basic details of the manifest. And remember I said I wanted to add an IIT to this one. So you can see there's a nice link that showed up when I had selected the trailer, add IIT or exemption. When I select that, it's giving me the options for the different exemptions we can add to a manifest. So a manifest can only have one exemption per manifest. So it's essentially telling customs, why are you not adding cargo? Why are there no shipments aboard this manifest? So in this case, I'm going to select IIT, and we're going to click Save. Now, our manifest is ready to send to customs because all we wanted to do is do a simple manifest with a driver, truck, and trailer. So essentially, we finished the conveyance portion of a manifest. In order to send a manifest, you'd use the Send to CBSA link and send tripper shipments. So I'm just going to scroll through the manifest and show you some details. So for example, you can see our truck here. You can see our trailer that we had added, and you can see the driver that we had added. A manifest is always in a state before you send it to customs. While it's in this draft state, it's always ready to be edited So it would be very trivial for me to, for example, add another shipment right now, change the driver. I could remove the driver. I'll just show you that quickly just to show you how easy it is. So I simply click remove, hit the spacebar, select the new driver, and you can see it's been changed. Same thing for truck, trailer. Anything's editable as long as you haven't sent it to customs. So for this one, I would go send trip only because there are no shipments on board. So I'm going to start the next manifest. This one we're going to do a shipment as well. So I'm going to go start new ACI eManifest. I'm going to enter in the conveyance reference number just like we did before. I'm going to leave my default port to Windsor. I'm going to select a truck. You can see it pick the driver again. And I'm going to select the trailer that I'm using. And now I'm going to use this shortcut on the bottom, save and start new ACI shipment. So now it brought us to the shipment page. And you can see again a company preference. It's defaulting to putting in PARS in our conveyance or our cargo control number. Again, if your company always uses the word PARS within your barcodes, which a lot of companies do to distinguish them between the trip numbers or PAPS numbers or any other numbers that they might use, it's just a really quick visual for them to know that it's a cargo control number and it is a PARS. So I'm going to leave that default in and enter in my PARS number. You can see it defaulted to putting it on the trailer, and it defaulted my shipment type to PARS, which is the most common case, and what you'll likely mostly be using depending on what you haul. My ETA is set to what the trip is, so your ETA on your shipment should always match the ETA of your trip. And now I'm going to enter in my shipper and consignee. Again, I can hit spacebar to see a full listing, or I can type in the name of the company I'm looking for. So you can see if I type in Elk, it's finding Elk Corp of Texas. If I typed in the address, 401, you can see Elk Corp of Texas, 401 Weavertown Road showing up. So I'm going to select that as my shipper. You can see once I selected that shipper, it defaulted my city of loading to a city in Pennsylvania. So what the city of loading is basically telling customs is where your trailer was loaded. City of acceptance, on the other hand, tells customs where you accepted possession of that trailer. So if you had another carrier that hauled your trailer from Pennsylvania to Detroit and you actually accepted the load in Detroit, you would enter in Detroit for the city of loading. Sorry, my Chrome has an annoying autofill set on it, which should be turned off in your browser preferences if you're using the system all the time. You can see I use the spacebar and M to narrow it down to Michigan and Minnesota, and it also got rid of that annoying autofill that Chrome was doing. And now I'm going to enter in my consignee information. So again, spacebar, I can select the consignee. One thing I haven't shown you yet, and I want to point out, is how to enter in new information into BorderConnect. So up to this point, everything that I've done has been already preloaded in our database. So it's as if you're an existing carrier, maybe you've been using ACI eManifests already, and you have a lot of data pre-filled. So you've already entered in your drivers, trucks, and trailers for ACE, and we're sharing that data with ACI, so I haven't had to actually enter in anything new. If you do have to enter in something new, such as a consignee, I can type in the new name of the consignee. So I'm going to use Jen's Farm, and you can see Jen's Farm's not preloaded in our system, so it's giving me a no results found and an option to add new consignee. So I'm going to use this link. You can see it's popped up a handy form to enter in the address details of Jen's new farm. And again, this is just dummy data for demo purposes, so I'm just using 1400 Bloss Street, City, Windsor, Ontario. And I'm going to click Save, and you can see it added that Jen's Farm into our list, and it's now inside of our database. So I can confirm that if I hit spacebar, I can see it inside the listing now. So it's finding Jen's farm, and I could even search by the 1400 Blah Street, and you can see it's finding it. So I'm going to select that. Now we've entered in all of our shipment information except for the commodity details. So the commodity is actually the goods you're hauling. So I'm going to click Save and Add New Commodity shortcut here. And you can see it's bringing up description, quantity, and weight, which are the required fields. You can tell they're required by the color of the indicator right in front of the input box. So I'm going to be delivering tomatoes. You can see that's a new commodity. It's not showing up. If it was an existing commodity within our system, for example, if I wanted to haul apples, you can see it knows when I've used apples in the past, I used pieces and pounds. So again, it's like a shortcut that BorderConnect is using to reduce the data entry that we have to do. So if I select apples, it defaulted to pieces and pounds. So I'm going to switch this to package. And I'm going to use 400 packages of apples and a weight of 1,300 pounds. Marks and numbers is optional. There's also some other optional field here. US hazmat code. I shouldn't really say optional. I should more indicate this as conditional. Essentially, some information on a manifest, CBSA expects to be sent if the goods match that condition. So in this case, hazmat, obviously apples aren't hazmat, but if I was shipping propane or some other hazardous good that has a UN code associated to it, I would enter in the UN code here. If you've done it in the past, again, BorderConnect will pre-fill the contact name and number and handling instructions, and that's something customs would expect if you are delivering hazmat. So I'm going to save this. Now this is going to bring me back to my shipment detail page, and if I scroll through the manifest, you can see my shipper and consignee are added, and my apple description. So everything on my shipment looks great. I'm going to go back to my manifest. So now you can see I have my driver, truck, and trailer added to the manifest, and I also have my shipment of apples. In BorderConnect, another useful new feature is if you highlight over the PARS number, it's going to show you some sub-details of that information. So in this case, it's showing me the history of the manifest. So this one hasn't been sent to customs. It's just telling you when I started the manifest. If I highlight over the quantity, you can see it's telling me it's apples and it has 400 packages. So this is a handy feature when you're just looking to verify that your information is correct before you send to customs. And again, I highly recommend you look over the manifest quickly before you are ready to send it to customs. It's always important to ensure your manifest details are 100% accurate. And if you find out something's inaccurate, it's important to change the details with CBSA before the truck arrives. So this one would be ready to send, so I would use the send trip and shipment link again to send it to customs. Now I'm going to show you how to edit a manifest that we've already done. So I'm going to scroll through the list and find an older manifest that somebody else has created just as a demo. So I'm going to click into this manifest. So you can see the date and time. It's giving me a bunch of warning messages that the ETA is too early because this was created a few days ago. So this is a manifest that needs to be edited. It needs to be changed before it's ready to send to customs. So I'm going to click the edit link, and I would like to change the date to today's date. So I can use these shortcuts to set to today. So you can see it change the date from June 9th to June 16th for me. And I don't want to arrive at 5 p.m. I expect my driver is actually going to arrive closer to 11 p.m. So I'm going to select 11 p.m. and I'm going to click Save. And now you can see BorderConnect's popped up an alert. It's asking me, your trip's ETA has been changed. Would you like to update your shipment to match? So right now our shipment is set with the old ETA, and we always want our shipment and our trip data to match. So I'm going to say OK. So again, BorderConnect saving me a little bit of work. So it's saying your shipment arrival date has been changed, and I say OK. And now I'm going to click into the shipment just to confirm that BorderConnect did that update for me correctly. And you can see it's showing the date, June 16th, 11 p.m. on my shipment. Now I'm going to scroll through this manifest detail and make sure everything looks correct. So from the date that this was entered, so maybe when your shipper told you what was being hauled, they've since amended it. So now there's 25 pieces. If I'd like to update these, so if I want to change this to 50 pieces, you saw I had just clicked the edit link and it brought me into the commodity, and I want to set my weight to 600 pounds. And I'm going to click Save. Now, just doing a quick overview of my shipment, I have my shipper consignee, my commodity details. So I'm going to assume these all match how I want the manifest to match. I'm going to go back to the manifest. And again, I'm looking at the driver truck trailers the same as when it was entered the first time. So everything looks good except I realize, oh, I'm not crossing at Windsor. I'm actually going to cross at a different port. So again, I'm going to click Edit on the trip. And right now, you can see it's setting Windsor as the first port of arrival. I'm going to use Sarnia. And before we were using the sublocation code for Sarnia, so we were telling customs, if this truck arrives and the PARS is not set up, I'm a bonded carrier, I want that to default to going in bond and arriving at that sublocation in order to perform the actual customs release. So I'm just going to clear that out. So I'm going to say that for this manifest, we're not using a warehouse or sublocation. I'm going to click Save. Now you can see BorderConnect again is giving me a handy little alert saying your port of entry has changed. Would you like to update the shipment? First port of entry to a match, and I'm going to say OK. And then it's saying my shipment port's been changed. Say OK again. And now I'm just going to click into the manifest to confirm the shipment is now scheduled to arrive at Sarnia and release at Sarnia, which is what we wanted. So now this manifest is in a finished state, and I'm ready to send it to customs. So again, I would use Send to CBSA. And this time, because I have a shipment, I'm sending trip and shipments. So what BorderConnect is going to do is bundle your manifest details into one. So it's going to send your trip and your shipment together. So it's saving you from doing two separate messages to customs. Essentially, the way Canada Customs work is each shipment is considered its own document within customs, and each trip is considered its own document within customs. So BorderConnect's essentially just saving you some work by grouping those trip and shipments together, and it's even going to group the responses. So you're going to get two separate responses for this. It's going to group those as well, showing that one trip and one shipment were accepted on one line in BorderConnect. I'm going to show you a couple other little features that we have on the main menu of our edit page here. So we have options to export the trip details to JSON. So this goes somewhat to our API. If you have dispatch software, which you want to eliminate some duplicate entry, you could have entered the shipment for the first time in BorderConnect and then export it and load it in your dispatch software. Or vice versa, you could have entered the details in your dispatch software and then exported from there into BorderConnect. So there's a lot of dispatch softwares that are integrated and connected using our API. So that's what that JSON message would be. And just to show you what it looks like, it's not all that entertaining, but it's essentially just details of the manifest. So you can see all the details that I had put into this manifest are showing up in a JSON messages, which is an EDI type that we use. If we want to print our driver's copy, we have print. So we have a standard driver's copy and a detailed driver's copy. I'll show you what the standard one looks like first. You can see it's very simple. It provides a barcoded conveyance reference number. So this is what CBSA is going to scan at the first port of arrival. If you do not have the barcoded conveyance reference number, customs would expect you to write the conveyance reference number on the cover sheet. So it's got to be handwritten. So if you only have your PARS invoice, and that's what you're presenting to custom as your barcoded form, you still have to indicate what the trip number is, or the conveyance reference number, for the officer at the first port. You can see it's just telling that officer what port you're expecting to cross, who the driver, who the truck, who the trailer is, and the cargo control number that you'd entered in and the type it is. So it's a very simple standard cover sheet that a lot of companies prefer to use. We also have the detailed driver's copy. So if I highlight print again and I can select detailed driver's copy, the basic difference on here is that it's providing more detail on the shipment level. So not only is it telling you, the officer, that it's PARS, but it's telling you what the quantity is supposed to be and what the consignee, who we expect the consignee to be. And it's providing a little bit more information about the truck and trailer, including the unit number and the license plate. Otherwise, most of the details are the same. Some companies prefer to use this one more as a last check, so the driver can just confirm when they receive this from the dispatch or from our fax service that the details that we entered in on the manifest match what they think is on the truck. So the driver should always be aware of what he's hauling, especially when he's about to cross the border. And if the driver does notice a discrepancy, for example, if the driver looked at this cover sheet and said, you know what, I don't have 50 on my truck, I actually only have 48, you'd have to educate your drivers to call and get that updated. So your manifest details should match reality and what's really on the truck. So if that was the case and this manifest was already on file, it's a very easy step. So if I wanted to change the manifest, so the driver had called me and told me the manifest details are wrong and need to be updated. So this manifest would be set to on file, so it's waiting to arrive at the border. So I'm just setting it to show you what that would look like. So it's saying on file with CBSA. BorderConnect knows it's really in a draft state because I just set that myself, but I'm just doing that to demo to you what it would look like. So I would click edit, and I would click into the shipment to edit that part. So if I want to edit commodity details, I have to click into the shipment and find the piece that I want to change. So I want to edit from 50 to 48, save it, go back to my manifest, and then because the manifest hasn't arrived with customs, customs have two different message types that you can send for changes. The first is a change. So in this case, the trip details haven't actually changed, so I'd be perfectly okay with just sending the change from the shipment level. Or for convenience, you can just send change trip and shipments, and even though the trip details haven't changed, customs will accept the modification request. Amend is used after arrival. So when your truck's actually arrived at the border and the customs officer has told you, say for example your trip had arrived with the 50 and the officer said, hey, this is wrong, your paperwork's showing only 48, they're going to ask you to do an amendment. So they're going to ask you to amend the trip and shipments at the border. So when you select that amend, it's going to actually, because I'm in a carrier that's not enabled right now for ACI, it would pop up basically asking a drop-down of the reasons why you want to do an amendment, and you just have to tell customs what your reasons are. So typically it's clerical error, or you know, if you had misinformation, you just have to select the most appropriate one from the drop-down. And if you ever get in the case where you're stuck at the border or you're unclear on what to do, I want to encourage you never to guess. Always call our 24/7 support team. That's why we're here. We're here to help. So if your driver's stuck or if you're just unsure about anything, it's not worth taking a chance and gambling on this, on your manifests. We'd much rather you call us and, you know, have us walk you through it, make sure you've done it correctly. Because come July 10th and then the January date, you may be liable for penalties. Even if they're zero rated July 10th, it's still going to cost you money if your trucks are delayed while you're making modifications and changes and customs are issuing you those penalties. So we want to avoid delays at all costs. We want to make sure everything's correct before your truck gets there. All right, so I've shown you a lot of the basics. One of the nice things about BorderConnect is that everything works in a very simple, consistent manner. We really design the software so that once you learn how it works in one area, you understand how it should work in all areas. So if you're familiar with how ACI eManifests work, we expect you to be able to jump into ACI with very, very low learning curve. Like we've had many carriers that just started doing ACI once the registration went through without any training, and they're fully compliant. So that consistency in the software ends up, being handy when you have to train multiple staff or train multiple users. And that's an area where it's something to point out because a lot of alternatives, ways to do your manifests, don't work in that consistent manner. If you're using the government portals as an example, the CBP portal and the CBSA portal are two completely different software programs running on completely different packages, managed by completely different governments. So the way the support works, the way the portals work, the way your data is kept are completely separate. You have no way to share your drivers, your trucks, your trailers, or your shipper and consignee information. Whereas in BorderConnect, if I've entered in manifest details, so for example, when I added in Jen's Farm, if I wanted to create an ACI shipment using Jen's Farm, I'm not going to go through this, but I'm just going to show you that information is available for me to use. Sorry. This company must have their preferences set only to use ACE or ACI. So again, this goes back to those preferences I was talking about. So if I go into company preferences, it's going to have a setting not to show ACI information within ACE. So if you never have ship drop-offs and pickups that are at the same location, that would be like a setting you could make them basically not share data within BorderConnect. Might actually be a person preference. Yep, so you can see where my mouse is highlighted. Search ACE shippers and consignees from ACI, yes, and then search ACI shippers and consignees from ACE is set to no. So if I save that, and I'll try to see if that works, what I was trying to show you. So if I'm starting a new ACI shipment, and I try to use, now you can see Jen's Farms pulling up from ACI. So the information entered in ACI can be used within ACE and vice versa, wherever applicable. And it shows the power of those company preferences to really customize the system to how your company does business. All right, so I've demoed a lot of the basics. I'm going to go through just some simple modifications to manifest we've already done that I haven't shown yet. So one is adding seal numbers. You can add seals on the fly from the manifest details page, or you can add seals from the details page. So if I click add seal here, you can see I can enter in the seal number, save it, and now if this manifest was not on file with customs, I could just send the trip and shipments. If it was on file with customs, I could send the change trip and shipments, and it would update that seal number within CBSA system. BorderConnect has many useful little features. We have a feature to track your eManifest. So for our company, we're processing manifests for hundreds of different trucking companies all day long. So oftentimes we'll get a support call or we'll get a question where we want to make sure that manifest, once it comes back from CBSA, comes back correct. So we'll track the manifest. And what it'll do, it'll provide a little link on the top where that manifest stays with us no matter what other manifest I'm on or no matter what company I switch into. So if you're a multi-company user, we have a lot of service providers that use our software to process manifests on behalf of carriers, and they can switch between different companies. This would follow them around, so they'll be notified when a change has occurred. They'll get an email and they'll get an alert box. Another useful feature is enabling driver notifications. So I haven't really touched on PARS, but essentially what PARS is in our system is a listing of your RNS status from CBSA. So Canada Customs, in the past, when your driver arrived at the border, the customs officer would take your paperwork and would individually stamp each invoice. So each PARS number would have a proof of release. In the new electronic age where CBSA is trying to eliminate some of their time and processing, they're encouraging carriers to be on release notification systems. So essentially, each time a shipment releases customs, customs tells you that it's released, and they've also consider that message proof of release. So carriers would no longer be responsible for maintaining those stamped copies if they get audited or have an issue. You can see we have shortcuts to email and fax the proof of release. I'll view one just to show you what it looks like. So you can see this is Canada Customs format. It's just showing the barcode of the PARS and the broker's transaction number, and then manifest details on the cover sheet. One of the nice things about BorderConnect's RNS system being built in with the same system you're using for ACE and for ACI is that I could actually start a new ACI shipment or a new ACI manifest right from the RNS screen. So if you have a PARS listing and you want to start a new ACI trip, you can actually start the trip right from the, so when the broker processed your invoice and set up your PARS for you, you're going to get notified that the broker finished their work. And if you haven't done the manifest yet, you can see it's showing a start new ACI trip link and a start new ACI shipment link. So I could actually start this trip from this PARS. So I'll just run through really quickly how this would work. So you can see it defaulted to Windsor because the RNS message was using Windsor. And again, I'm going to just use the spacebar to select a driver, a truck, and a trailer. And now I'm going to start new ACI shipment. So you can see on the start new ACI shipment, the PARS number has been pre-filled for me. And it's showing me the port locations. And now I'm going to select the shipper and consignee. Save the commodity information. You can see how fast doing a manifest is once your information's all been stored in BorderConnect. So I'm going to save, go back to eManifest, and I'd be ready to send that manifest that I started from the RNS listing. And now if I look at that RNS listing, you can see the manifest that I had clicked on. It's no longer showing as the links to start anew. It's showing what it's assigned to. And you can tell just again by just glancing at a listing of your RNS status or your PARS listing, the state of all your manifests. So at this part of the webinar, I'd like to request if anybody has anything they want me to demo, I encourage you to type it in the chat box and let us know what you'd like to see. And I'm going to take your questions now. I'm going to pass it over to Justin briefly so he can list the questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, I did ask at the beginning of the webinar if anybody did have any questions during the course of the webinar, and it looks like there isn't any questions, but we will wait a few seconds here to see if anything pops up. In the meantime, you can join us on Thursday, June 18th at 2 p.m. and we'll be continuing our series of ACI eManifest webinars regarding the mandatory transition with CBSA. Debbie Dent will be presenting that, and to register, you can just visit BorderConnect's event page, or you can email myself at Justin@BorderConnect, Justin, and I will go ahead and send you a registration link. Okay. It does not look like we have any questions, so we will go ahead and conclude this webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. And like I said, our next webinar will be on June 18th. It'll feature Debbie Dent covering what you need to know before July 10th CBSA deadline regarding ACI eManifest. And on Tuesday, July 7th at 2 p.m., BorderConnect will be featuring a free webinar covering how to become a U.S. bonded carrier, as well as walking you through how to do your own bonds in ACE. So for those who have friends or coworkers that you think should tune in, please let them know. To register for any of the aforementioned webinars or to sign up for a free 30-day ACE or ACI eManifest software trial, visit our website at www.borderconnect.com or email myself, Justin@borderconnect.com, and I'll send you a registration link to either. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, please contact our toll-free number at 1-800-596-5176. And I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, and have a nice day.